The topic I'm going to discuss is the startup process of project. First of all, let us discuss with the introduction portion. The first and one of the critical step in the project cycle management is the identification and selection of the project. Whenever an individual wants to run his or her own business, there are various critical steps that are need to be followed by that individual for the purpose of selecting of particular project. And that particular project includes the cycle management, under which various kinds of activities and processes are involved, like identification of the project, and after identification, the selection process is accomplished for the selection of suitable project. So identification and selection process is the most important stage in the form of project selection. It includes the process that affects the whole organizational activities, including that of the sustainability of the project, and after completing and transferring to the operational phase. First of all, when individual identify the process and then know the feasibility of the project. After that, the selection of the particular project is accomplishing. After the selection of the prescribed project and after doing the various kind of activities with the selected project, that project must be identified that the selection will be feasible or not. And these all things must be resulted while preparing the particular report at the end of the activity. The project activity basically aimed at bringing the clearly specified objectives within a defined time period and with defined budget. Whenever an individual starts its business, they need to prepare a proper plan that what kind of activities and what kind of project is accomplished within the organization. A project activity basically aimed at bringing about the clarity of the objectives, that what are the objectives and where the company actually wants to take place within the market. These all objectives must define a well time prepared project, that how much time is utilized for preparing the particular project and completing the particular project, and how much amount is used for preparing the activities and converting the raw material into the finished product. So at the time of preparing the project, various kinds of activities are performed, like identification, selection of project, and after selection of project, a time period is decided that how much time is utilized for preparing certain kind of activities, and proper budgetary control system is prepared within the organization for accomplish the activities in an effective manner. So first of all, we need to discuss the basic meaning of project. So what is project? Project is a group of activities or tasks that support and efforts to accomplish something. Project involves some kind of activities in which there are group of activities or many activities are involved, and tasks are provided to the number of human resources. For what purpose? To achieve something that is as per the plan of the organization. The accomplishment of project is basically depends upon the combination of some factors, that is the human factor and non-human factor. Human factor involves worker and non-human resources include machinery and other things. While combining these human factors and non-human factors and put together in a temporary organization, for what purpose we do these kind of combinations? To achieve some specific goals and to give support to the organization. Project report must involve some kind of skills. Skills means a specialized person who is expert in his knowledge and have some experience that how the work is performed within the organization. That specialist knowledge, skills and experience that are required for the accomplishment of any project, and it helps in reducing the various kinds of risk that involves in the process of production. So for being or gaining success within the organization and to accomplish the various group of activities, proper project selection is to be done with the combination of some factors. That factors may be human factors and non-human factors, and by combining these kind of factors, organization can achieve their goal within a prescribed period of time. The very first step under the project we are going to discuss is the project identification. The purpose of project identification is to develop a preliminary proposal for the most appropriate set of interventions and the courses of actions within a specific time and budget frames to address the specific development goals in a particular region or setting. While setting up of any kind of objectives and while setting up of any kind of project, that what activities are going to be performed by a particular organization in future period of time. And that prescribed time, the very first step is the project identification. Project identification is developed for the purpose of some preliminary goals that are decided by the organization to accomplish some courses of actions. That what kind of actions are performed, like what kinds of goods and services are performed, and how much time is utilized while performing that activities, and how much budget is prepared for preparing that activities. All these things are identified in the process of project identification. It also helps in identifying the various investment ideas, that a particular amount of funds that is already available within the organization out of the profits. That amount of profits will be invested in various sort of factors, like in mutual funds, shares, in banks, or any other place, through which after a prescribed period of time, the organization get a full-fledged amount of profits in return. So identification involves some points. The very first one is identification involves a review of alternative approaches. Like the word identification means, by viewing the various sort of ideas. There are number of alternative approaches that are used by the organization for setting up of any kind of problem or changing of circumstances. While performing the organization's projects, there are some changes or there are some requirements that are need to be changed within the process. So that purpose, various alternative approaches are adapted by the organization in the identification, which helps the firm to achieve their goal. Identification also define the project objectives, that what are the project objectives and what are their scope and what are the degree of details. These all things are also involved in the project identification. It also provides the information that is necessary to justify the commitment of the resources for detailed formulation and respective priority studies. Like what kind of resources are used within the organization, and that kind of resources have some scope in the organizational work or provide some vision that how the work is to be performed. All these definition and defined project reports are identified in the project identification process. According to the third point, that is the identification involves the kind of finding or identification of the major issues that must be tackled and the question to be addressed before a project based on the concept can be implemented. While selecting a particular kind of project and before the implementation of that kind of project, proper identification must be done on the major issues, that in future time period the raw material is available or not, or the demand is still remain sustainable in the future time period or not. All these kind of issues must be identified by expert person, and for tackling that kind of questions, various kind of opportunities and alternatives are available. After that, the availability of these kind of opportunities, then the project that is started before the organization objective Then these projects must be implemented without any problem that may be arising in the future time period. After the project identification, the next step is the project selection. So project selection is the process that is starts where the project identification ends. If the organization do various kind of alternatives and take various steps regarding the project identification, that what activities are actually performed by the entrepreneur. The next step is the selection process. Selection process starts where the project identification process ends. So project selection is a kind of careful study for each and every project idea that is to be chosen by the starting point, and choosing one of them for the further consideration and development. So while identification, there are various alternatives that are available for the organization. So project selection is a quite important idea and careful study to determine a particular project. That particular project must be chosen on the basis of further consideration and development. So it is not too difficult to find a good project in need of investment or other assistance. If there are various alternatives available, various opportunities available in the case of selection process, so it became easy for the expert to choose a particular project which is good for the organization or for the investment purpose. Project identification and project selection is typically starts with generating some ideas. If organization have some innovative ideas, then they can do identification and selection project in very easy manner. So the biggest challenge in the case of selection of an idea that have the highest chance of becoming the beneficial project. While selection the project, the biggest challenge for an organization is to have a good idea. If they have the good idea, proper vision is provided to the organization that what they actually want to achieve in future, then they have the highest chance of becoming the project that may be beneficial for them in the future time period. Project selection also help in the various kind of processes that can be used to organize some kind of approaches and objectives. For what purpose? For narrowing down and moving forward with the idea that can be best converted into project. After identifying various sort of alternatives, what organization determine? They determine various kinds of results that may be profitable for the organization and non-profitable for the organization. Those non-profitable organizational objectives must be eliminated from the alternative portion. And then best project must be used for converting the process into the actual project. The next point is the project formulation phase. The project formulation phase, which may be called the pre-investment phase, that can be divided into number of stages. Project formulation phase includes the pre-investment phase, that is where the budgeting is still in the process of organization and the investment process is still pending. So this phase is divided into the number of stages. Different authors have divided this into the different number of phases, and these phases are, that is the preliminary project formulation, pre-feasibility study, feasibility study, support or functional studies, and detailed project reports. So the very first one we are going to discuss is the preliminary project formulation. The process of project development begins with the conception of the project idea. Whenever an entrepreneur wants to set up one project for their developing purpose or to satisfy the customer needs, the process begins with the project idea, that what is the idea behind the particular project. This kind of identification of the project is doing in itself and plays a very important role. and it is a quite difficult decision for the organization to choose the best idea for the formulation of particular project. Next point is the pre-feasible study. Pre-feasible study, as the name implies, is the predecessors to detailed techno-economic feasible study, that what kinds of techniques we are using while the formation of a particular project. So it is a preliminary assistance of the project idea, that development in preliminary project formulation, that what kind of idea is chosen while starting up of business, and that idea must be developed in the particular standard form or not. All these things are checked in the process of pre-feasibility study. Pre-feasibility study also includes some tasks. These are the particular amount, that is cost, and the time consuming process, that is how much time is required for the accomplishment of project. Next point is the feasible study. Now, feasible study includes a project that can be taken up for implementation only if its feasibility offered. If the project is suitable for the organizational profit, then that particular objective will be chosen by the organization and implemented in the process of doing activity. The main objective and the main purpose of feasibility study is to define and analyze that what are the demands that are related with the objective of the project or not. While doing and while implementing the particular selected plans, that feasible study must be conducted. In feasible study, what we have discussed, we study the points, that is the project what we have started and the objectives what we have started before starting up of the business. All these are connected or not. And by put together with the various kind of alternatives approaches, the organizational objectives will be achieved within effective period of time. The next point is the support or functional studies. Support or functional studies are those activities of project formulation which are confined to some specific elements or functions or large investment projects. It also involved market study, material study, and technological selection. So according to the word, we define as support or functional study which provides some backbone facility to the organization. Like a person study the various factors of market, that about the competition level, how much competition is generated within the market, and what kind of material should be used by the organization for producing their goods and services, and what innovative technical methods are used by the organization for the accomplishment of selected project. All these things like material study, market study, consumer study, and technological selection process is done under support and functional study concept. The last point is the detailed project report. Once the feasibility of the project is established, once the organization choose their project and implement that project for accomplishment of activities, then a project report is prepared by an expert person to know the feasibility of the project, whether the activities are run according to the plans and policies or not. That particular project report may be prepared after a particular period of time, say we can say that after 6 months or 1 year. According to this project report, the organization or top level management may analyze various kind of factors that the organization run its activities in profitable form or non-profitable form. So these kind of tools are implemented before selection of a effective project for establishment of activities and to satisfy the consumer needs and wants in an effective manner.